Hi, Shelby Joe Long here with the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast, where I have the opportunity to hear the stories of how people entered into the world of entrepreneurship and start living a life of their passion because they transform their genius into a business. And today is no exception. I'm very excited to learn a little bit more about Scott and his ambitions because we are looking for ways to really grow his business. I'm really excited to hear about it. So, Scott, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Shelby, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be anywhere associated with the word genius. It doesn't happen often, so I love it. Yeah, you and I have had some great conversations, and looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. I know that you are a lawyer. I want you to tell us all about that, but you also are a best-selling author. You're a Shatterproof Entrepreneur. Seems like there's a consulting piece there too. So why don't you give us a description about who you are and how you want to be known?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a 28-year overnight success. Uh, I got my law degree in '96 and started practicing in November of '96 and have done a huge variety of things. And it's been a really fun career. About 12 years ago, I shifted out of a litigation mode and a reactive mode and trying to get people out of trouble and hired my first business coach to help me build my dream, which was to create an on-demand program for entrepreneurs so that they would have access to legal services and information like the big guys do. And so we created the access plan. And so I started doing legal coaching instead of getting people out of trouble. And so that's been a blast. And then along the way, I started working with the Ziegler Corporation, and that kind of morphed into me being on stages, and then eventually into writing the book, The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, because our philosophy is that you need to build your business so that it's shatterproof in a way that means that things are going to bounce off of it and not break through and knock you off of the road of life. And so we've been doing that, but the law firm wasn't quite enough. So we had to build shatterproof solutions and start doing consulting because everyone has legal issues for sure, but it's not always their biggest issue. A lot of times they have leadership issues, they have marketing issues, um, they have things that we can help them with other than law stuff. So we created Shatterproof Solutions. We do our own live events. I have a biweekly group coaching thing called the Shatterproof Room, and then we're starting a mastermind group. In fact, in Atlanta in February for the Shatterproof Leadership Retreat, where we'll be studying the leadership of S. Truett Cathy and doing a backstage tour at Chick-fil-A. And so, yeah, so I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, what we do is we help entrepreneurs grow, scale, and protect their businesses.
Yeah, and I think it's such a critical and unique perspective that with your law background to get into that. And I want to ask a few questions about the being a lawyer and your membership community before we get into your
Yeah.
entrepreneurship group because I know that's a lot more to explore too. But what interested you about law? Why did you decide to get into law?
In '91, when I graduated from college, the economy was pretty rocky. I wanted to be an ad executive. That was kind of then out of college. I had a marketing degree. I loved marketing, and I had a best friend going through business school together, and we both wanted to be ad execs. He actually is living the dream. Ad firm does a lot of stuff for the food industry, but I couldn't find any marketing jobs. My wife and I had moved back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there just weren't any. If you applied for a marketing job, they would ask you to sell copiers. And so I ended up doing sales instead of marketing and sold for AT&T. This was my first self-employment in that world. And I was an authorized agent for AT&T. I had the aftermarket for all of Tulsa and surrounding areas, which if you're listening, it's bigger than it sounds.
Yeah.
Tulsa's a nice sized city. And so anyone that had an AT&T business phone system and wanted another phone, wanted anything added to that system, I was the guy. So it was a pretty good deal. And then I figured out along the way that they had this really cool computer system that I could download all this information. And one of the things I could get out of it was expiring maintenance contracts. So if you buy an AT&T phone system, at least back then, they were $15,000, $20,000 kind of minimum, and they would come with these warranties. And almost everyone would buy an extended warranty, and those would expire. But as long as you renewed it before it expired, you could continue this warranty for the system. And so I found in the database where I could download all of the information for the ones that were going to expire in 60 days. And then I would put together a really nice sales letter with a contract and sent it out to all these people. And over half of them would come back signed. And then I would just do follow up and get about another 25% of those back. And AT&T would pay me on the annualized premium on those plans. And so, I mean, I was 23, 20, we were making more money than we'd seen but we'd been
Yeah.
pretty, and I was doing this all off my dining room table and our dot matrix printer. And it was working real well for about 6 months. And then we got a new manager. General manager came in, and she was a nice lady and a good general manager, and she was smart. She really liked what I was doing. She decided that she would take it and give it to a minimum wage person to do, and took my territory away from me. In my opinion, breached my contract and sent me to Southeast Oklahoma, where there are no phones. There may be now. There weren't business phones. They just had maybe one phone in each office. I made some friends down there as I tried to sell things, but they sent me there to die.
Oh,
And so I did what any normal person would do. I applied to law school.
sure.
I had some interest in junior high, the career days, the lawyers would come through, and I grew up in a small town, and they seemed really important. Everyone really liked them. And I thought, well, that seems nice. And the legal stuff kind of interested me. But as I grew up, I kind of got more into business stuff and really was interested in that. But it seemed like I had a choice. I needed to retool. I could either go get a master's in business, an MBA, and there were a lot of those, or I
Yeah.
could go to law school. The money was about the same. It took a little longer to get the law degree. And I just felt like it gave me more options.
Yeah.
And so I had a brother-in-law that had just finished law school and had done it with loans. And so I knew how he did it. I was fortunate enough that my parents paid for my undergrad, so I didn't have to learn the loan stuff. So I learned it. We had to borrow $20,000 to go to law school. My wife was a full-time teacher. She taught in Noble, Oklahoma during that time, and we lived on like $714 every 2 weeks, and got through law school, and then moved to Texas, and I started practicing.
That's I mean, that's a that's a good good very roundabout way into getting into law school. But I think about, and we'll hear about your Shatterproof Entrepreneur group, but I think that all of that experience is such a good foundation to have, because there's, and perhaps I don't have any evidence behind this assessment, but that typically people go right into law school without that work
Yeah.
experience, if you will, outside of the courtroom or outside of that, and having that business experience and sales experience and kind of that the heartbreak of sales and management and all that, and having all that experience before you go to law school completely changes your worldview about that, and gives you a different, I would think it gives you a little bit of a different view about the function of the legal system. So,
Yeah, it was great. Looking back, it was really good. You're completely right. Everyone else was 22. I
yeah,
was 5. They were all single. I was married.
yeah,
They had no experience. I had some real life experience. Because when I left AT&T, because I couldn't make any money doing where they sent me, and you can't just decide to go to law school and then show up at law school. There's kind of a 6 to 8 month kind of a track there to get in. So I applied for another job and I started selling this thing called long distance. Uh,
yeah,
there's many people listening that have no idea what that is, but we used to have to pay to
true.
make long distance calls,
Mhm.
and businesses paid through the nose. And so if you could save them money, they would switch. And so I worked for a company called LDS. They train, and so I got to go through AT&T sales training, and then LDS sent me to their sales training. So I got to learn a lot in that short amount of time. And then I got to go back and be a full-time student, which is much easier than
Sales.
trying to try to make a living selling.
Right.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
Uh, I worked my butt off in law school, but I also got to play basketball with the guys. I mean, it was much more flexible than trying to make a living selling. And so law school was really good. My life experience added to that because there were other not what I would call non-traditional students, but they were much older. Like they were in their 30s and had done a whole career and were now shifting.
Yeah.
It was pretty unusual to go undergrad, take couple of years, and then come back. I was kind of in a weird spot. I didn't quite fit in with anybody.
But that experience gives you, and I almost think, with the law membership community that you have, if that's an accurate way to describe it, I wonder if that experience kind of feeds into that and why you developed that.
Probably it does. I was again, I was very blessed. My parents had a pretty good network, and so I was able to go meet with a lawyer, a very high-powered lawyer that would never have met with me had he not knew my parents.
Yeah.
Uh, Gave me his valuable time and explained to me how I had a great case, but it was against AT&T, and there was nothing I could do.
Right.
And so.
Yeah.
Uh, and probably my contract could have been better had I gone there first, which that's one of the lessons that we try to teach our clients is to, let's do that stuff first rather than reacting later. And so, yeah, I'm sure it did play a role in it. And then um, as I started my own firm in 2005, I'm in this shared office space with all these other little startup companies, and we're all drinking coffee, and they're asking me questions and laughing about how this is the only way they can ask questions because they can't afford me otherwise. And
Right.
so all that kind of started feeding into that. There's this problem that I've got the answers. It's just that the system's rigged against the small business owners because of the expensive way that lawyers and law firms built.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about how that, I mean, you're an entrepreneur at heart, so you want to solve that problem. So tell me about that business. What does that look like?
So now we have this subscription plan called Access that has three different levels depending on, sorry, four different levels depending on where you are in business. We have a launch level for new, if you're starting out, because you need help then. And then as you move up the scale, it's launch momentum, expansion. And then we at the Guardian level. At the Guardian level, that's people are talking about, hey, what's my exit strategy? Do I have a good buy-sell agreement with my partners in place? Do I have good, solid estate planning and legacy planning in place? And we're talking about those kinds of things. Or am I going to go public? Am I going to sell this thing to a venture capital firm? Those kind of conversations. And so we take you all the way up the scale. But in the beginning, it was just how do I package something so that people like me can ask any stupid question they want to ask and not worry about getting billed for it.
Yeah.
Because the problem that I had a problem. I was getting repeat business. Business owners were coming back to me, not every year, but every few years, and they'd signed another bad deal. They'd gotten in more litigation, and it's like, now, can you get me out? And we could sometimes get them out, but it was real expensive. And then
Yeah.
they'd upset at the end because it cost too much. And so it started kind of keeping me up. And
Yeah.
so I was at with continuing education for lawyers. You have to do the 15 hours every year. I went to a conference in Austin, and a guy got up and was talking about he was a coach for lawyers. I'm like, well, what's that? And so he's talking about how he's coaching lawyers on the business side of running law firms. And I'm like, and he charged a monthly fee to do that. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And so I started looking into it, and I had read the E-Myth Revisited about a year before that. And so
Yeah.
I started looking, and Michael was offering coaching through that. And I'm like, okay, so there's this thing called coaching, and businesses are paying this monthly fee for it. So why couldn't they pay a monthly fee for legal coaching?
Right.
And so then I started trying to find a coach to help me build this because I had no idea how to do it. I had this dream. Um, the that I'm a Gladiator fan, and the new movie just came out, and they talk
Yeah.
about Marcus Aurelius had a dream, and it was Rome, and you could only dare whisper it because it would go away. And I kind of felt like I had this idea, but no one else understands it. What do I do with it? And so I kept handing it to a guy, three coaches. I handed it to three coaches, and the first two had no idea what to do with it. They wanted to talk about my purpose. They wanted to talk, which are important things. But it's like, no,
You're
I've
what?
got a vision. I want to do this. I have to do this. And finally got to, I was at dinner with one of my lifelong friends, Clay Stairs and Dean Briggs in Tulsa. And Clay's talking about, hey, I've hired this business coach. I'm like, why do you need a business coach? You're a teacher. He's like, not anymore. I'm going to be a life coach. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And he's helping him build this business. And I'm like, well, if he can help you do that, he can definitely help me with this. And so I got on a call with him in August of 2012, and he's like, yeah, I can help you do that. And so we worked together for 2 years, and he helped me build the access plan and launch it and sell it. And it was much more difficult than I ever thought it would be. But that's kind of how it happened. And now we work with 100 plus entrepreneurs on a regular basis. We do one of the big parts of the plan is that we do check-in calls. And there may be a better name for it, but that's they're just
Yeah.
checking. It's like, hey, what's going on with your business? What's going on with your life? And we just have a conversation. And in those conversations, they tell us what they're doing, and we're able to spot things that, hey, I didn't know you were doing that. Let's not do that anymore. Or
Yeah.
don't do it quite like that. Let's do this. Or hey, you need a document for that. We'll get that document for you. And then we're able to build the legal systems and structures that support what they're doing. The more they know us and are comfortable, the more transparent they are.
Right.
The it's like law firms have traditionally been emergency rooms, and surgeons, and so you go in with this traumatic event, and then they operate, and it's really expensive. And what we're trying to do is be the holistic health coach, and we're going to
Right.
help try to keep you healthy and avoid the acute situations. And I just had to pick a new primary last year, and I don't like them. I'm gonna find a new one. But you don't when you go into this new doctor, you're kind of guarded, and
Mhm.
you don't share every little thing that's hurting. It takes a while for you to kind of open up and maybe tell them what your eating habits really are,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, I have a good diet. It takes a while for you to get comfortable enough to really be transparent with what you're doing. And so those check-in calls are super important. And then just on demand, and I get texts and
Yeah.
calls. Everyone has my personal cell phone because I want them to have that ability. But we have other lawyers on the team that they talk to as well. But it's just given them that ability to get away from that hourly billing where you're getting billed for every question you ask to a flat monthly fee where you know what your expense is, you can budget for it. And then you and your team can feel free to ask every stupid question out there because stupid questions avoid stupid mistakes.
Right. Gosh, I think I just love the model. The membership model, I think it's so great. And to also be, in a profession that has not had something like that, I think that's such a unique thing. And the thing I really enjoy about it is that I think your experience in small business and like your question about your contract, all that kind of stuff, you had it in your mind. But I think an important lesson there is that you went to somebody to help you build it. Because I think often as we have these ideas and we want to get it into the marketplace and we're used to speaking to our own people and in our space and we don't think about how it's going to be received. I run into that
Yeah.
frequently with people, with entrepreneurs that are entering their expertise into the marketplace. But I think a really important lesson is that you reached out to somebody to help you with that vision. And I think that's a tough lesson for entrepreneurs, as you likely know, because you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. That's a tough lesson for them to learn, and a tough lesson for us to ask for help. And I don't know. I think that's a really important model. So I think it's a
Yeah.
good lesson for turning your genius into the marketplace.
Yeah, it's you've got to have a coach, but and it becomes a little bit addictive once you get into it. Um, because at least for me, I run this law firm. I don't have any partners. I do have other lawyers that do work for us. I have staff, but it's me.
Yeah.
Let's stop with me. And so I'm on this island, and without having a coach, it's just me sitting here asking myself questions. And I I can make some progress that way, but it's a lot better if I can ask someone that isn't having to deal with the staff and not having to deal with my family and all the things I have to deal with, but they can just see it from this different perspective and say, hey, you're worrying about the wrong thing. You need to be worrying about this. Let's do it this way. Um, or everyone's having that problem. It's not just you.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. And
Yeah.
so if you want to grow fast, um, I I think it's really necessary. We all know stories of people that have done it without coaches, and for sure it happens. But most of us normal people need somebody to do that. We're not going to become the best at what we're doing without it. And especially if you're doing something really new, like what I did, it's super important because I had to create the market.
Yeah.
No one was looking for a subscription law firm. Now they are. But 12 years ago, I couldn't, if I found anyone who's doing something similar in a law firm, I bookmarked it. I was reaching out to them. We were talking because I couldn't find it. And so no one was looking for it. So Google AdWords wouldn't help. SEO that was really didn't make a difference. I did what I called it my CPA tour. I talked to 45 CPAs in 30 days, and most of them I met with in person because the easiest way to market any product or service is to find the people that have your clients and market to them and let
Yep.
them introduce you to their clients. So I did that, and that's the kind of thing that I had to do to get this growing. I thought I would have 100 members in the first year. It took 10 years to have 100 at one time.
Particularly with a new, yeah, that's the challenge. You have this new, and I think that's an important lesson too, is that it doesn't happen overnight because if you're introducing something new into the marketplace, people aren't looking for it. And so it's challenging to be able to do that. And yeah, I'm curious also, did the the law membership, did that influence your writing the book and launching this other Shatterproof Entrepreneur series? Are those mutually exclusive or did one inspire the other?
I'm sure. I think it probably indirectly inspired it.
Yeah.
Um, I just started being around people that were writing books,
Yeah.
right? And so I started having the idea that could I write a book? Because one of the problems that I have is that I can only do so many meetings per day. So I can only meet with so many entrepreneurs as clients. I can only talk to so many as potential clients. And so it's it's not super scalable, or at least I'm not super scalable. And so I had to have some place where I could be one to many.
Yeah.
Podcast is one of the tools that we use for that. Stages is the other, and then books. And so it just felt like I needed to do it. I had an outline done in 2019, and then the world went crazy,
Mhm.
and I didn't do anything with it. And then I was speaking in Phoenix in October of '03. Yeah. And one of the other speakers was a book coach. And after she heard me speak, she's like, you need to write a book. And I'm like, I've got an outline. I showed her the outline, and she's like, and by outline, it wasn't just like chapters. I had written some paragraphs even under the chapters. And she's like, you've got more than I've ever seen at this phase. You need to write that book. And so I asked her how much, and it was something I was willing to pay. And once I paid it, I
It
got the book.
gets you to it.
And and as you know, I'm wanting to be on more and more stages. And I just felt like it was really necessary for me to have that collateral as I was going on stages. And one of my dreams was to have that book in every seat where I was speaking, and I've gotten to do that now twice in the last 6 months, and it's a pretty cool feeling to be able to give everyone what I feel like they need to
Yep.
be a better people entrepreneur, and encapsulated where they can take it away and don't have to deal with me directly, can still get that information. And so that's kind of how it happened. And now it's launched into the events, and I'm sure I've got other book ideas now too that we're working on.
Yeah, it's a whole brand. And as you develop, I mean, it's a whole brand that you can, it's so nice to, I also have a book and it's so nice to just have that business card, you know? And I think as an author, it's important to think about that as a way to develop your credibility and to you're not afraid to get your ideas out there. You know, you clearly are not because you have the membership community too, but that's pretty, that's a fun way to see that develop. But also it points to that it's important to have a person holding you accountable. Because writing a book is hard.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite a process.
It's quite a process. Well, talk to me because we were connected with speaking. Talk to me about your speaking and talk to me about how you what do you talk about? What's your goal with speaking? It is a great way to establish your credibility and gives you visibility towards your brand. Are you using that to build your entrepreneur brand or your business, your legal brand or both or what's the vision for that?
Yes. Um, yeah, I love teaching. And
Yeah.
so whether it's teaching a Sunday school class in a church, a small group, or business owners, I love teaching. And so it was a natural progression for me. Um, I wasn't smart enough to be scared of it, I guess. I probably should have been scared of it. But it's I ended up on stages because uh, Tom Ziegler and Howard Partridge were doing these big quarterly events, and the Ziegler Company had come on as access clients. I really was trying to get Howard Partridge's company Phenomenal Products, and so I had a conversation with Howard, and so I made him an offer that I would give him an access plan for free if he would put me on his stages for the next 8 events. And I thought he would say no. And he said yes.
You never know unless you ask.
No. And so then I started doing the events, and we used the speaking to sell access plans for sure.
Yeah.
And now and then now we use them to sell workbooks and books, and then to sell the retreats. But it all kind of works together. It just kind of depends on what the group is, on what I'm selling. If it's the Texas group, for sure, I'm selling access. The nice thing about the two brands is that they run side by side. And if you're a business owner, you may not be interested in talking to me about the legal stuff. You may not have had the realization yet that you have a problem, but you do know that you need more leads, and you know you need to make more money. And if I can show you how to do that, then you become open to the conversation of, hey, what's that access stuff over there? And could that help me too? And so they work very well together, but it just kind of depends on the audience, which thing I'm selling at the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's again, I think you're the legal background and then also you love speaking and you want to be involved with that and you have that membership community, like you have the desire to help small businesses, and that's very clear. So
Yeah, it's
I'm excited to have it. So we'll now that we know each other and there's so much synergy in what I do and people I work with and they need what there's just that's why you have these conversations because you never know what's gonna happen, but it'll be really, I don't know, when we have a discussion in a year, it'll be like
Yeah.
it'll just be fun to see how both those brands are working together, or maybe one will emerge and you'll be a standout speaker in a certain area, and yeah, there's lots of places it can go. So it's just fun.
Yeah. And then a big part of this Shatterproof life is that I've got one of my son Luke is coming on full time with us, and he wants to help me build that brand. He's working on his MBA right now.
Yeah.
Uh, he's not going to law school. I talked him out of that because that's like $150,000. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. We need to do that. So he can't ever really take over the law firm. So we need to build a business that he and my other son Jake, if he wanted to come work with us, he's an accountant, could work in because the law firm is just really you got to be a lawyer. So it's kind of cost prohibitive to do that unless that's really your vision. And so far they haven't wanted, that's not what they want to do. So I
Yeah.
kind of, if I want to do a business with my boys, I kind of have to have that. So it works out well that we're doing it. And then we'll see what happens with the law firm. One of the reasons that I'm building it on a recurring revenue model is because those are sellable. If you build it on
And
hourly billing, you can sell it.
yeah.
Uh, Much more difficult, but they can very easily see what the future value of the company is based on the historical data of what the monthly recurring revenue is.
Yeah, you can franchise it, you can do all sorts of things with it. So yeah.
So it's
So much fun. So much fun.
yeah, um, it's fun
It's
work.
so fun talking to successful entrepreneurs that have all these creative ideas and they're all coming together, and just to see where you are, what stage you're at. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's a very blessed life. Um, but as you know, it's hard work.
It is hard work. It is hard work. Tell me about the retreats, and then I want to pull it back into to you talking to the potential entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, we got the Shatterproof Leadership Retreat. And this isn't going to be 200 people on a retreat. This is 20 seats. Um, my lifelong friend Dean Briggs, I think he's written 10 books.
Okay.
Um, Pastor leadership guy. He's going to come with me. We're going to go to Chick-fil-A, go behind the scenes, and then I've been preparing 3 sessions on the leadership of Truett Cathy, who built this huge empire on chicken. And why was it so successful? Because I want to be able to build on the backs of people that have already done it. So let's
Yeah.
learn the secrets that they've applied to their business, figure out how that works for us. And so we're bringing with us these highly motivated, high earning entrepreneurs that want to go to that next level. They're trying to not just 7 figures, but let's figure out how to get to 8 figures. Let's build generational businesses.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you get around other people that are doing it. And we ask tough questions. And so we'll do the teaching sessions, and then we're going to do hot seats where we actually focus on what's the problem or opportunity that's in front of you that you need help with, so you can get the input not only from the coaches, but from the other business owners that may have some valuable experience that they can provide.
And you're running that this spring.
It'll be February 26th, 27th, and 28th in Atlanta, Georgia.
Do you do that every year, or is that
We
multiple
will
times?
be. We will be. This is the
Yeah.
first game. This is
That's
the first one.
exciting. That's exciting. Well, I can't wait to hear about that. So, where can our audience find you? Um,
The easiest place to find me is scottreib.com.
okay.
If you go there, you can as you drop down, there's a way to get to Shatterproof Solutions and a way to get to Reib Law. So if you want legal help, you can go there, and if you want help growing and scaling, you can go to Shatterproof Solutions. And then there's also a way to, if you're listening and going, man, we have to have Scott on our stage, then there's a place there where you can book me to bring me to your people.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you on more stages for sure. For sure. Well, Scott, I always ended the interview by talking about what advice would you have for the potential entrepreneur out there, the dreamer that maybe wants to start a business, what would you tell them?
If you want to start a business, find a business that people are already doing. I used to call it the Yellow Pages rule. Back when I grew up, there was this big book of Yellow Pages of all the businesses in your area. And if whatever there was the most of, that's the thing I would do. If there's a demand for it, people are already doing it. If they're not doing it, doesn't mean it's not possible, but that's going to be a much tougher road. If you
Yeah,
can find something that people are already doing and then do it, find a different way of doing it and do it better than they're doing it, then you can be successful because there's always room at the top.
it's a good piece of advice and many important lessons in this conversation. Anything else that we should be on the watch for other than your retreat?
No, that's the next big thing. Well, and then we also have our biweekly coaching program, the Shatterproof Room. If you're listening and would like to be part of that, it's right now. It's because it's starting out. It's growing. It's a small group. We meet biweekly, and I bring some stuff to the table that we talk about each month, and then we're able to focus on what's your problem you're dealing with right now, and we coach you through it.
That's awesome. Well, Scott, I learned so much more about what you have going on. I think it's very exciting with all that your innovative ideas that are in the marketplace and that are going to be just infinitely more because it's everything is going to develop from this. You're at a very exciting point. So thank you
Thanks for having me.
for telling us about all of that. And
That's
all, to all you listeners out there, I hope you were inspired to think about your genius in a different way because here in this conversation, there are multiple different ways that you can do it. There's not just one solution, but I think the really important lesson that we learn is that ask somebody for help, and that's okay. And you can it just takes a while to get it to work, but it will work. So thanks again, Scott. I appreciate all of that.
Thanks. I appreciate you being a genius for a day.
Genius for a day. Yeah, we are living in our genius, so it's fun to be able to do that. And to all you potential genius entrepreneurs out there, take the step. You never know what's going to happen unless you do it. So we'll see you next time when we talk to the next genius entrepreneur that can inspire you to enter your expertise into the marketplace. Where is